Welcome to the Rabbi Daniel Lapin Show. Excepting in this case, it's the Rabbi Daniel Lapin and Susan Lapin Show, where we reveal how the world really works.
Well, last time I was on the show, we discussed male friendships, so I thought it was only fair to come back to discuss female friendships.
And since men and women are counterpoints, opposites of one another, and since a widespread problem is that men, for the most part today, do not have the friends that they need, men are low on friends, I'm going to assume that women overdo it on friends.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. I haven't thought of it like that.
I was interested to see what you'd make of that.
Well, I don't know.
You know, to the detriment of family and faith, perhaps. Okay,
so that's an interesting. I'm not sure I would have put it like that, but I do think there is an encouragement of quote unquote sisterhood that. Now there always were. You know, growing up at our synagogue and in many synagogues, the synagogue my parents belonged to, many synagogues, there was something called the Ladies' Auxiliary.
Very old.
That's a very old-fashioned term, and it was called the Sisterhood, ran the Ladies' Auxiliary. And it was something people of my, we younger people, that was like for old people. It was for old ladies.
And what did they do, Susan?
Oh, they did lots of things, but they raised money for the synagogue, and
Did they run the gift shop?
We didn't have a gift shop, but if there was, they did run it, yes. Places that did have gift shops, they ran it.
Did they cater, like if there was going to be tea and Danish or coffee and Danish?
They might have. I don't even know, because my mother, quite frankly, was not one of those people.
Yeah.
But it was something I knew we didn't, but I knew this was not something I was planning, when I grow up, I can be part of it.
In our synagogue in California, we didn't even dream of having such a thing.
But we did have women's classes. We did have a lot of opportunities for women to get together and to bond.
Yes.
Usually around learning. We had,
Bible study.
We had Mommy and Me, where when all of us had little kids, we would get together once a week, because for a variety of reasons, we were not able to get out to synagogue on the Shabbat on Saturday, and so we would get together during the week and do some learning together, and then we'd have babies
Bible
crawling
study.
Yes, we'd have babies crawling us all over. And so important was that in forming friendships that I now once a month actually participate in a Zoom. The women who I was part of that group with when we had babies.
Now our grandmothers.
We now get together once a month just to keep up the friendship. So we do still get together. We're all over the world now, so we get together on Zoom. But those were very formative friendships.
All of this conversation flows from the basic theme of last week, which was your wife is your wife, not your best friend.
But I was going to say, the word sisterhood has become what I would call a toxic word.
Oh.
The idea of sisterhood it used to be a chance for women to get together. Now the sisterhood is an anti-male. When you hear people saying, I'm part of the sisterhood, it's sort of an anti-male thing, I think.
Oh, it's a feminist rallying cry.
Yes, I think the phraseology has changed. Years ago, I remember an article. It was a period when there was a lot of excitement because there were 6 or 7 female senators, and this was a new big deal. So a big deal. And one of them was a Republican. I think the rest were all Democrats. And there was an article about, let's say it was 6. I don't remember. It could have been 8. It could have been 5. But there was an article about these women. And the Republican senator made a comment that, yes, she feels an obligation and a responsibility to support her sister's senators' bills. And I thought, well, then you don't deserve to be elected, because you were not elected on a platform of, I will vote for anything that women support, the women in the Senate support. You were elected on a platform of, I follow certain principles, and they're identifiable as conservative principles. So I remember thinking, well, I don't think she was she was not from a state that I could vote for her, but this was like certainly someone I was never going to support.
Yeah, clearly.
Because that's ridiculous. And it's a huge problem when that becomes the identifying thing, like anything else, color, religion. I'm going to vote for a person because they look or belong to a certain group instead of because of their ideas, was a bad time for America when people started voting in that way. You know, I don't have to know what you think. I just have to know what you look like, or where you worship, or where you don't worship.
It was like one of
to.
it was either Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton.
Both.
You have to vote for them if you're a woman.
Both of them had said things like that.
What a
and which
terrible
is
idea.
Horribly, which is very insulting. The same way, quite frankly, when Joe Lieberman was running for vice president with
Wasn't
Al
that
Gore,
horrible?
we were terribly insulted at the idea of, well, obviously you're going to vote for him because he's Jewish. No, we'll invite him for a Shabbat meal because he's Jewish, but we're not going to vote for him.
We invite people who are not Jewish for a Shabbat
That's
meal
true
as well.
also.
We certainly did not and would not have voted for Joe
But
Lieberman.
we weren't going to vote for him because we didn't agree with the ideas he had for America. And that's the same thing. I think there is, in this way, the sisterhood today is a far cry from the sisterhood of temples and churches.
Yes,
because
right.
they are anti having other relationships then with other women.
So
That's a very interesting point you make. That
I'm basically asking, are we finding women prioritizing their friends over their families?
Well, I will respond with something called girlfriend-getaways that get advertised. Now, obviously, places are advertising because places want you to come and spend money. They want you to come stay at their hotel, or they want to, eat at their restaurant. But clearly, they're tapping into something. And in general, when I have seen those girlfriend-getaways advertised, it's almost come and complain about your man. It's got a negative, again, it has a negative tinge to it. And so, yes,
So
I
that's
would
what I'm
say
wondering.
that there is a negativity. And if you don't want to get controversial in this show, right?
My paths are the paths of righteousness.
So maybe you should cover your ears.
And
'cause
my
I think
ways are the ways of peace.
I think you may need to cover your
I shy
ears.
away from controversy like a startled horse.
I think you may need to cover your ears because I'm going to be, I think, controversial here. The whole idea of lesbianism, the growth of lesbianism, I think, is in many ways I don't believe that, and I do think there's a difference, first of all, between homosexuality and lesbianism, and that's not the discussion for now. So I'm specifically talking about lesbianism, that I think a lot of lesbianism is a result of women feeling negative about men, but needing someone to love and to be super close to and to have that affection with. And so I think that is a great deal of lesbianism is an not that, and even people may not say, I hate men. They may be fine. They may have friends. They may have, fathers and brothers and be fine. But the inability to have a relationship with a man, where it's a natural thing to have a relationship with a girlfriend. A strong, emotional, warm, loving relationship with another woman. Easy.
Can I hear again?
That part you could hear, yes.
Okay.
I was saying it's very easy for women to have a strong, warm, loving relationship with another woman.
That's easy.
It's very easy. I have women I feel very, very close to.
Would you say easier than it is for men to feel close to one another? I would say yes. Yes.
And an emotional, psychological self. And little girls very naturally will walk around with their arms around each other.
Yes, that's right.
Or hand in hand.
And little
that's
boys
very
at
natural,
a certain stage will.
But at a certain stage it becomes they don't feel it's...
On some level they feel it's gay. They don't want to do it.
It's just not natural anymore.
Yeah.
In others, that's
right.
They'll push each other, they'll shove each other.
Yes,
that's a physical
right.
relationship.
Yeah.
Where girls will still happily link an arm through each other.
Yes.
If I'm walking with a friend, we might link arms. It's a very natural thing.
Well, one of the reasons that I'm really very happy to see the pressure that the government now 2025 is bringing American universities under, because I am so philosophically hostile to what universities have done to American culture over the last 40 years, 50 years.
And that was, I think it's 60-40 now in universities, 60% female,
Women, yeah.
40% male.
So again, that's problematic because anecdotally, we could probably list, if we put our heads together, we could probably, in the next 60 seconds, we could list easily 20 women who've taken up places in prestigious universities for professional careers.
I'm going to say medical school, law school, dental school,
Yes.
more than university, not just a BA.
Yeah, that's right. And practiced for a year or two or none, and gave it up and vanished. So we do not see the expansion of women's presence in universities as a big positive at all. But something else that the university has done is a party school is a name that universities have acquired, and never without the active collaboration of the administrations of many colleges are delighted to be called party places.
I'm just not sure what this is having to do with female friendships. Are you there, where you're heading? I'm not sure where you're heading.
I am heading there.
Okay.
I'm on it's like a train on rails. That's how directly I'm heading
All right.
there. Now let's see, where was I going? No, it's like this, that one of the things that universities have done for American men is postpone adolescence.
Prolong adolescence.
Prolonged,
Not postpone it, prolong it.
Correction. Prolonged adolescence.
The train went a little off the path there, but no big deal.
Thank you. And so what it led to is really horrible treatment of men towards women on campus. And that's something that led to a phenomenon that it was so prevalent that it had a name. They used to call them lugs. Do you remember that? Lesbians. Yes. Until graduation. Women were so badly treated by men. What I mean by that, men, the hookup culture, men used women, convinced themselves that this was an equal deal, good for both sides, and then never called in the morning or never called a day or a week later. And the thing that universities distorted so dramatically and so destructively was the basic idea that when a man and a woman sleep together, regardless of their status, that is in essence a lifetime bond. Now, men don't intuitively feel that.
Can you just? I'm not sure you said that the way you thought you were saying it, or what. I didn't hear what I think you meant to say.
Go ahead.
You weren't saying that the university distorted it. You were saying that they didn't. That they gave the message that this wasn't
they
so.
They permitted it.
And I have to say, when you were saying the men treated the women badly, it was with the full. There was before heading back to, I don't know, maybe the 60s or 50s or 60s. There was. There were certain, first of all, there were even dorms with a door, like a man wasn't allowed above the first floor. Now you have co-ed dorms. I mean, it's a world apart.
No, but the universities aggravated that.
Yes, it aggravated it, but it was with the full
compliance
of the women. It wasn't. This wasn't done by the men.
Tom Wolfe wrote what I thought was a really important novel called
The Education of
Charlotte Simmons. Yes. Where he spoke about a girl from a normal background who came from a small town. She excelled in school. She got to university, and her life was destroyed by men without conscience.
I think she's the exception. The girls who came from the big cities, and I think were the ones that equally betrayed her, as did the men.
May well be. Yeah. So and all I was saying was that the reality, which I think women feel more intuitively than men, is that physical intimacy brings about a bonding which is almost impossible to completely eradicate. And so women feel particularly hurt and aggrieved and even angry when a man treats it lightly.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that you're right. But I think that
Oh,
the
I
women,
knew there was a but coming
well,
there.
I think the women's movement convinced women they shouldn't think like that.
Yes,
So when you say
agreed.
women intuitively feel it, I think they've worked very hard not to feel it.
Okay.
And so they acquiesce with full consent, and then they're shocked.
We'll dig a
when
little
they're-
deeper on this in the bonus podcast for We Happy Warrior members.
Okay. And should we just mention that
Yes, we should.
once we're at it, that this podcast, along with much of the work that we do, which is hopefully at least is a way to have conversations, to get a little intellectual ammunition, to tie the United States and other parts of the world back to the Bible in a healthy way, is all funded by the American Alliance of Jews and Christians, which is an organization where we say, you know what? We do not share theology with our Christian friends, but we do share a vision for the way communities and
We call it
families
the,
and the United States of America should be evolved.
Bible-based Judeo-Christian values. And by now, it should be evident to even the most vociferous critic that Bible-based Judeo-Christian values are vital for a society's endurance.
And so we would like to invite you to support our work. If you find it valuable, we invite you to support it by going to the American Alliance of Jews and Christians and making a donation.
That website is aajc.org.
Not .com,
Not
.org.
aajc.org.
Okay, so we're going to go into more in the bonus. We're going to go more
We'll go
into...
a little bit more into that idea, but what we're trying to get a handle on here is that when you look at the 5, and I'm not going to call them silos, because the meaning of the word silo
is a standalone.
is standalone columns, whereas these 5 F's are powerfully cross-linked to one another. But what I will say is that if you look at them imagining a bar graph, for many men, the F of finance, in terms of effort and time and energy expended, is high. The F of friendship is low. And then, family, fitness, and faith are where they are. But last week we looked at the idea that men are low on the friendship level, and we are now looking at the possibility. I raised it as a possibility, and Susan has not yet shot it down, that for women, the F of friendship for many women might be very high.
I think it's become more important because there has been a feeling generated that you can't trust men.
Yes.
You can't count on them. And so your female friends are the ones who are the core of your life, including, marrying another woman and making that your family. So I think I do agree with you. But where I would say is that healthy female friendships, and that's, I think that it's what is a healthy female friendship, because I think that is absolutely vital. We spoke last week that we were laughing at the idea of women complaining about man keeping, this new term where a woman says, I'm so tired because I have to be responsible for my husband's social life. You can listen to last week if you're interested at all in that, and I think I wrote a musing about it. But
Yes.
female friendships, there are healthy and there are unhealthy. And so I do think you are onto something, that there's a lot of unhealthy female friendships that are being encouraged because they are replacing, in some ways, family and faith. But that female friendships are extremely important, because your husband, just like a wife, we spoke last week that a wife can't be a husband's best friend. And we really like each other. I mean, we have a lot of fun together. We like going on vacation together. So it's not that this is not a negative.
Not at all. Not at all.
But that a husband really can't be a wife's best friend either. You need someone else.
I'm
need
grateful
another
that you
person.
know that.
Yeah, you need another person. And you need another female who can be part of your life. And it's not on the same level as a spouse. A spouse is on a completely different level.
As a matter
but
of
it is on
fact,
an important
next
level.
Thursday, we're going to get in the car and drive for a couple of hours to see a friend of yours that has been a friend of yours since 6th grade.
Second
Second grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I maybe first, but I don't remember her in first grade. But from second on, we were together through high school, through college. I mean, we were then neighbors. Our kids were born relatively within a few months of each other, over and over and over again. So we've been friends for longer than I probably want to contemplate.
And I've been friends with her husband.
And her husband,
for 30 years.
She came out for our wedding, and her husband was a student of yours, a Bible student of yours at that point, and when she came out for our wedding, she pretty much stayed and married. So he is one of your closer friends. He's a student, but he became a very close friend as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very valuable and important friendship. And there are things that I can share with her that it would be probably irritating to share with you. You would feel
irritating
helpless.
To you or me?
Both. Because you would probably either
can't do
feel,
anything about
you
it.
can't say, and why? Can we stop talking about? You've said it once. Like, do we really have to discuss it for an hour? Really, 30 seconds was plenty.
So when you talk to her, for instance, might it happen that you would repeat something 3 or 4 times during the course of a conversation?
We'll probably know. I don't think it's necessarily repeating, but we'll probably speak about something from 14 different angles, so we can talk about it for 25 minutes or a half hour or 45 minutes. And we're both very happy to do that. But it is a healthy friendship in that we don't sit and complain about our husbands. I mean, if there was a serious issue, then we might share it in the hope of getting a solution, but we don't sit and put you down. We don't sit and gossip. Exactly. Where it's a healthy relationship, and that's looking for those. I just wrote a Substack. I started writing on Substack a few months ago, and within the last week or two, I wrote a Substack about somebody who came to our synagogue, and I don't remember her name, and I'm very grateful I don't remember her name because I'm not writing nicely about her. But I hope you don't remember who they are either. But it was this couple who came to our community, and I write that they were relatively new, and she called one day and asked to speak to you. And I said to you, something's really wrong. Said, you better please answer this quickly. Something's wrong. And nothing was wrong. And we eventually both realized this woman talked, she whined. She just talked, and everything was a complaint. And she talked in a complaining in her tone of voice. If she was saying, I had eggs for breakfast, it would come out as a complaint. And they didn't stay long in our synagogue, in our community. And her husband maybe needed to relocate for work, or maybe they really felt they didn't belong, and they didn't, because in the community was a bunch of people. When the women got together, it was always a positive growth experience. And she was like, bringing everyone, she was just a whiner. And so you have to be really careful, and it's very easy, I think, for women to get into and it's promoted by society, to get into, we'll get together and complain.
Let me ask you where women and their therapists fit into this conversation. Do women bond with they do bond with their therapists. Do they bond with their therapists? And I'm very anti-therapist 90% of the time. Do they bond with their therapist as a friend, or is this a sort of separate category?
I don't really know.
You don't know much
I don't really know,
area.
and I would probably say I'm against the therapist maybe 80% of the time. But I think that the idea of wanting to sit and talk to somebody, I mean, a professional therapist, a proper professional therapist would be very careful not to make it look like a friendship, I believe. From women, friends I have who are therapists, that's a very important thing, that you are not their friend. But I think women, the idea of having somebody who'll listen to you for an hour is very appealing. And that could be maybe you don't have friends who can do that properly.
A lot of women don't have friends from 6th grade or 2nd grade. And sometimes it's because of geographic mobility. Sometimes it's for other reasons. But I've noticed that we relocated from the West Coast to the East Coast.
I'm questioning that as you're saying it, because I think if I think through my friends, I think most of them do have friends from years back, that women retain friendships.
But you have actually made new friends much more easily than I have.
Yeah.
And so in the last decade or so, you've made friends that you have only known for a few years. Me, less successfully. Let's not probe my failures, but let's look at your successes.
Well, I do think, one of the ways we moved to a new city 10 years ago. Now, in the middle of that, fortunately, and I do thank God that we moved 10 years ago we moved 5 years before COVID.
Correct.
Because I feel very sorry for people who moved in 2020 somewhere.
That was hard.
That's really hard. You missed that opportunity to meet new people for years, and then people were more suspicious, and people lost a lot of the ability of friendships. But when I moved and I started going to women's Bible studies, invariably I would sit next to somebody, and you don't just sit there quietly, and we didn't just sit there each on our own phone. We would say hi. And if it's somebody who'd been around for a long time, they knew I was new, and they'd say, "Oh, I don't recognize you. Are you new?" And invariably, I would say 5 out of 10 times, at least 50% of the time, I walked out of that class, or maybe if I sat next to her 2 more weeks in a row, I walked out with an invitation for both of us for a Shabbat meal. And the idea is you sit next to somebody, you start chatting.
Yes.
And it's not hard to start chatting if you're women. I think it is. Men might introduce themselves. Hello, and then what do you say after that?
Well, as you always used to ask, you've stopped now, but you used to ask me,
I know.
I go to morning services. It might start at 6:30, might start at 7, might start at 7:30, depending on which one I choose. And it runs for about half an hour roughly. And then we leave to go to work. That's what people do. So you're always puzzled as to why I never made any friends.
Well, the women would leave to go to. Many of the women were carving out the classes that took place in the morning. They were for many women. They carved this out as an important thing, and they were running to get to work or to be with children or whatever. In all fairness, I think you caused part of your own trouble because you didn't pick one time and one place to go to consistently.
Regularly. I drift
you
around.
drift, and when you drift, then you're not going to make relationships. So,
well, let's not dwell on my failures. Let's rather enjoy your successes.
I think the idea is correct, but I think a man, if you wanted to, would have to work harder than a woman. It's much more natural.
Yes, I think that's the important point.
That is true. That I will give you. That it's much easier.
I saw a book that claimed, and just because something appears in a book doesn't make it factual, but I saw a book that claimed that you needed to convert an acquaintance into a friend, you needed to get together a minimum of 11 times for an average of 3 hours a time.
Wow.
To me, that sounds excessive.
Sounds awfully long. I mean, who has 3 hours to spend with somebody who you've just met?
Yeah. It's a lot, isn't it?
It just sounds too hard for me. Again, I think the line of sliding along, it's not like you're an acquaintance and then there's all of a sudden you turn into a friend. Acquaintanceship moves into, and one of the things, and I think this does help, for example, among the friends that I have made, and when I say, look, you have my friend who we're seeing next week, and we've been friends since we're 6 years old, is a level of friendship that's a deep friendship, and yes. I have a level like that. Not everyone is at that level,
right? But
if even among my they're on the sliding scale of acquaintance to friends, but they're people that I now see on a regular basis for whatever reason. If one of them I hear has, or the flu, or they hear that I have the flu, or when Arena was very ill, I think it's very, again, natural for a woman to bring over a meal or a pot of chicken soup or something that says flowers to something that says I'm thinking of you. And obviously that grows a relationship. When a man, you talk sometimes, very often about if you want to make a relationship with somebody, do something for them or have them do something for you. I think on a male term, I know you gave an example once that if you meet someone and you think, oh, this could be somebody I would really like to get to know for business. And they mention that their son is a big baseball fan. And then your office happens to give out free tickets to baseball tickets, but you're not a baseball guy. Well, instead of just saying, okay, take a pair and you send it to this person, that's a big deal.
Yes.
I brought over a few weeks ago, there's a woman, she's not a friend, but I knew that she was having a rough time with a new baby, and I knew that her mother passed away a number of years ago, so there's not a mother to help her. I brought over a lunch. I brought her lunch. she's not, I wouldn't call her a friend, but at that point I moved her a little bit from the acquaintance somewhere along and it wasn't,
That's right.
I wasn't manipulating her. She was a friend of our daughter, Rena's. So I knew Rena would have done that. I felt, well, if Rena was alive, Rena would have done that for her. And so, but it moves it a little bit more into some relationship. That's beyond, it's on that scale of acquaintanceship to friendship to someone caring. And that's an easy thing for women to do. Easier is for women to bring something that's a little more personal, and it's not going to be, it'll be weird. First of all, you're not making chicken soup. When's the last time you made chicken soup?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
But even if you were, I mean, we do have sons-in-law who are great cooks. I don't know that they're bringing something over to another man would be.
No,
it would be like, what do you
happen.
want?
Yeah.
So I think it's easier for women to make deeper relationships.
Somebody recently, was it a guy who recently gave me some meat, they'd smoked some meat.
Okay, that's a big deal, right? Smoking meat is a. Who did that?
Somebody
That's
gave me some smoked meat,
remember.
right?
I don't remember, but somebody. Well,
It'll come back
obviously
to
you should have remembered because this is now supposed to be someone that you need to.
Yes, absolutely.
Pursue the relationship.
You can be quite
a
sure
more.
when we finished having this conversation. I will check into that exactly.
But again, there's a woman who is someone I started sitting next to in classes a few times, and then I was in a class with her, and every single week since Rena passed away, which is now over a year, she sends me on Friday just a little text saying, "Have a good Shabbos, have a Shabbat, good Shabbat."
Yeah.
We've had her to our house. We have had she and her husband to our house for a Shabbat meal, but. She doesn't sit there. I don't sit there and go, why is she saying that? Why is she doing that to me? Why is she saying, it's just nice. Where I think with men, there would be a little bit more of, why are you doing this?
I have a small number, as you know, of clients that I coach personally. And half of them, both men, half of them are deficient on the friendship level, which has had negative ramifications on business and marriage, family and finance.
Let me ask you a question on this, because you have mothers who are full-time mothers, and then you have mothers who are working. And I think either way, it's pretty much pushed in the society that whether the man is the man is working. I'm assuming a marriage where the husband is working and either the wife is also working or she's at home. There's a feeling, though, that the children are, I think there still is a feeling more of her responsibility and a push in the culture to tell men, you need to give her a break. You need to say, you know what, you take some time and go off. I don't hear the opposite from women saying, make sure that your husband has time when he can go off and be with other guys or go do a project or go work in the wood shop with other guys or whatever it is, go for a jog with other guys. It may be he needs time to go to the gym, but it doesn't get tied into friendship, where I think with women it is, make sure she has time to go out with her friends.
So we should make sure that we inform the women in our orbit how important it is that their husbands have male friends and opportunities to see them.
Yes. And again, just like with female friendships, there are unhealthy male friendships and unhealthy female friendships, and there are healthy ones. So you do want to, each person has to take the responsibility to say, am I forming a friendship with someone who's going to help me be a better spouse,
about
a better parent?
Separate responsibilities and things. I was struck, and I think you might have been on that call as well. I'm not 100% sure, where a young man was talking to a few of us, and somebody said, "You're looking very tired," and he said, "Well, yeah, our firstborn baby is 5 months old, and last night we just didn't get more than about 2 hours of sleep." And I didn't want to bring this up. It wasn't the topic of conversation, but I'm telling you that I was very struck by his use of the word "we." Now, he had work in the morning. I remember very clearly, and
Did she?
No, she's a stay-at-home wife.
Okay. Are there other children?
No, first child.
Okay, first child. All right.
I remember very clearly, and tell me I've got this memorized wrong if you think, but I remember clearly that when, especially in the early phases when our first baby or 2 or 3 was small and there was nighttime feeding and disturbance during the night, I don't remember how, but I distinctly remember you not having me wake up. I remember, I wake up, be aware of you, but I was not part of that process.
This is a different topic.
Well, it jumps off the fact you were saying about women making sure that talking about their husbands having time with friends. Different topic, but I just want to check my memory on that.
No, okay. So I will tell you, I actually find it very weird, to tell you the truth, that I'm in favor of breastfeeding. Now, not everyone can. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's not successful.
Not for me. Never worked.
That doesn't mean you can. And this is such an important thing because I think it was Zuba. He said we become a nation of the exceptional, right? So that the exceptional. So most people have sight. There are blind people. And you will remember there was a newspaper in Los Angeles that would not run an ad that said lovely view from an apartment for apartments to rent because they felt it discriminated against the blind. That's a nation that has gone into like everybody exceptional. Oh, 1 in 500 people might do this.
Well, you have this with the transgender craze.
Okay, so I think it's okay to say that I think that the best thing for a baby is to be nursed by their mother. And then when it doesn't mean that you're a bad person if you have trouble or for whatever reasons or you don't want to. It doesn't make you a bad person, but that's the best thing to wait for a baby to be fed. Well, if I am nursing a baby, then I'm needed. That's my job at that point. You're not. Hardly. And I actually, because I know one of our children felt that her husband had to be with her. And again, she was not working. And she was the first child. She was not working. He's getting up in the morning to go to synagogue and to work. And I thought, this is so ridiculous and you, when the baby goes to nap, you will go in and take a nap at 10 a.m. or at 2 p.m. or wherever it is. But this is absurd. But it is. We're very much into the bond, right? The father has to bond. Or women will pump so that their husband can give a bottle, which is double the amount of work. I have trouble with it. I think that is silly. So no, yes, that was and when we had other children, to the extent that I then needed help because I could not go in and just take a nap in the day but again, I worked my schedule. We worked it around.
Yeah.
But the idea that this has to be a dual activity, I still don't understand that. I still don't get it. Maybe we'll get some angry responses or explanatory, not angry responses, but I don't get it. I think I loved nursing and nursing. I as you know, I like my sleep, but nursing in the middle of the night was it's not fun when you're totally sleep deprived, life is difficult. But there was an aspect of nursing in the middle of the night when it was quiet and it was just the newborn and me, especially when we had older kids. Once we had older kids, that was so precious and I loved it.
Well, I appreciate you not sharing it with me.
You couldn't share it because it was between me and the baby.
Exactly. It would have made no sense
that you were not part of.
No,
frankly.
Absolutely. So why wake me? Why do that?
Yeah.
We're egalitarian.
Now it may be that at 6 a.m, if the baby got up and I was just wiped out, that you took the baby. Fine, you took them, but that's not.
And I enjoyed some of those times too.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, that's it. And I see sitting
here.
I
do think we went, a little bit off topic a lot, but
yes,
I hope
absolutely.
people will enjoy it.
Here's another
anyway.
journey off topic. This has just arrived for my Shabbat reading.
It was recommended to us by a friend who is a financial acquaintance and a friend. It started as a financial and became a friend, but he recommended this book. And so we ordered it and he said it's big, and it is.
From Third World to First, the Singapore Story, 1965 to 2000. And it's by the great Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. So, you may be hearing more from us on this topic, but it really is a remarkable story, and it matches the extraordinary story of Israel as well. Going from a shattered remnant of a nation that had been torn apart in World War II, 1948, declaring statehood, followed up by a declaration of war by the 4 contiguous Arab nations surrounding. And somehow or another, here we are, and there is a highly successful nation of Israel whose gross domestic product is equal, even though it's 5 to 10 million people, equal to the GDP aggregated of the 4 contiguous countries, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon, even though there are 100 million people. And Singapore, again, 1965, Malaysia throws Singapore out of their confederation, I think because they weren't Muslim enough, I believe, but I'll know more. And by 2000, the book goes to 2025.
No,
to 2005.
No, 2000.
It's up to 2000. Oh, okay, 2000. Good. Up to 2000. And absolutely, anyone who's actually been in or through Singapore knows and would find it hard to believe what that place looked like as recently as 1965.
And
so
one of the things you're asking is they didn't have a Judeo-Christian basis. Right, so how did they? We're very curious. Now, this is going to be a marriage difficulty for us. This is going to be something we're going to have to navigate because look at the size of this book. No one's going to read this very quickly.
So we'll have different colored bookmarks.
And we're going to have to leave it somewhere where we can both access it.
A pink bookmark for me and a blue bookmark for you.
No, I'm saying it's going to have to be somewhere we can both access it. Because either we have to read it out loud, which is probably going to take a few years, or we're going to have to read it
and I've got a feeling it's not a book you want to take 6 months to read. I think we want to get that.
So we're going to have to figure this out. So who gets it first?
From Third World to First by Lee Kuan Yew, and I've really been looking forward to it. By the way, look at the quality. We bought it as a second-hand book for really just a handful of dollars. It was the second look. As authors, we're not so thrilled with the second-hand book market. Yes, that's
but
right.
as consumers, we really love it. So it's one of those things.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Once again, we do hope you will support the AAJC at aajc.org, American Alliance of Jews and Christians, which does make this podcast possible and so much else of the work that we do.
So until next week, we wish you, as always, a journey onwards and upwards with your family, your faith, your finances, your friendships, and your physical fitness. God bless.